So if you guys want really healthy garden beds, there's a couple things that you should be doing or looking for right around this time of year in order to go ahead and make that happen. And it's actually, I say that it's right around this time of year, but it's something that you should be looking for year round. But it's especially important to do it this time of year because it's right before the heat sets in. And once the heat sets in, it invites all sorts of pests and diseases and issues into your garden bed. So the more you can get control of it right now, the better off you're going to be for the rest of summer. So I'm going to take you through and I'm going to walk you around and show you guys exactly what to look for and what kind of preventative steps to take or what you can take once things start kind of getting a little bit out of control. But before I walk you around, let's talk about fertilizing, because to me, that is probably one of the #1 things that you can do in order to help with pest and disease prevention. The reason being is you're making sure that your plants are the healthiest they can be, and that really does keep them less susceptible to things like aphids or mealybugs or spider mites or what have you really. Think about it just as the human body. The healthier you keep your body, the better your immune system is and is able to fight off all those other illnesses out there. Same thing with plants. So the best thing that you can start doing is fertilizing. Now fertilizing can be a little bit tricky because you want to do it differently in terms of perennials versus annuals, and then even whether it's in the ground or in a container. So let's talk about it. Perennials, or the plants that come back every year, don't need to be fertilized nearly as often. So their roots grow really deep into the ground and they're searching for all those nutrients. So you just want to make sure that those roots stay nice and healthy. Really, all I do is I throw a little bit of bone meal on top of the soil, or I use Espoma plant tone throughout my garden beds early in the spring season before anything really takes off on me. I don't start using it right now because honestly, it's not necessary and you're going to do more harm than good. So at this point, if you haven't fertilized your perennials, just wait until next year to do it. Nothing's gonna happen. In terms of your annuals though, you want to use a liquid fertilizer or a slow release fertilizer. I usually tend to stay away from slow release fertilizers. There really isn't a good reason for it. It's just not something that I keep handy, but I typically have a lot of different types of liquid fertilizers. I'm not married to a specific type of liquid fertilizer. I usually go towards either Fox Farm, or I do use a lot of fish emulsion. It doesn't smell the greatest, so when I do use it, I try to use it late in the evening when I know no one's going to be walking around, because I have gotten some complaints from my husband and my son. But really, the reason why I love fish emulsion is because it is an organic type of fertilizer, and so if you overuse it, nothing happens to the root system, whereas something that's a little bit more synthetic can actually cause more damage if you're not using the right amount. The one that I do tend to stay away from is Miracle-Gro. It's just not the one that I gravitate towards. But I've also known a lot of people where Miracle-Gro works for them, my mom being one of them. So if that's the one that you like and that's the one that works best for you, then continue to use it. All right, now let's talk about in-ground versus container plantings. So when things are in-ground, all I do is I broadcast spray them with a sprayer that attaches to my hose. I got this off of Amazon. I can link it in the description below. And all I do is I fill it with the fertilizer, and it just as I'm spraying, the fertilizer is being released if I'm using a liquid fertilizer. So this works great for anything that's in the ground. And if it gets on your perennials, nothing's gonna happen. You're not doing it any harm. So you don't have to go crazy about making sure that you're only watering the annuals and not the perennials. The other thing you wanna make sure of is that you're watering at the root ball. I'll get to that in a little bit later in the video. Now for containers, the reason why containers are different than in-ground plantings is because as you're watering your containers, that water is seeping through the container and all those nutrients are washing out as you're watering everything. So while you probably want to fertilize your in-ground annuals somewhere around once every 3 weeks, your container annuals should be fertilized at least once a week, maximum once every 10 days. Now this can get annoying, to be quite honest, because if you're mixing fertilizer all the time or you're just broadcasting, you don't really know whether you're using enough fertilizer, you're using too much fertilizer. So the way I like to do it to make it a lot simpler, and I actually stole this idea from a woman that I saw somewhere on social media, and unfortunately I didn't save it, so I can't give her the credit for it. Basically what you do is you take gallon jug containers. These are water containers. I save my milk containers and things of that nature. And what I do is I do it all in one shot. So everything is all filled up with water. These are obviously empty. And then I just use the correct amount of fertilizer in each. And then this way, I have all the jugs in the garage. I have them ready to go. So when it's fertilizing day, I can just quickly pick them out. Also, what's really nice is that this task is so easy that I can give it to my son on the day that he's feeling especially helpful, and he can do it too, and then I can just go around and fertilize. So literally all I do, I have a Fox Farm liquid fertilizer, I have a granular fertilizer. This is by Proven Winners. I can link this on Amazon too. Both are lovely. I really like working with both. And so for the granular fertilizer, you just do 1 scoop per gallon. You mix it in there. And then I would go through and fill all dozen of these that I have going on. And then when it comes to watering the containers, I just go ahead. The first thing that you want to do is water the actual container itself. The reason being is that if it's overly dry and you are immediately going in with the fertilizer, it might suck up too much of that fertilizer and harm the plant. If you're using an organic fertilizer, it typically doesn't do that, but it's a great precaution to take just in case. So you want to go through, you want to make sure all your containers are watered, and then once everything is watered, you can go through, pick up your gallon, and then just gently, maybe use a half a gallon per container depending on your container size. Go ahead and fertilize everything. I use the same exact method for my house plants as well. So I don't discern between the two types of plants, whether it's annuals or my house plants. So like I said earlier, you really should be walking your garden as often as possible. My recommendation is at least 3 to 4 times a week, and really look to see what is going on. But if you're not sure what to look for, then that's not really a helpful tip. So let's talk about what to look for. The first thing that you want to do is, if you know something already had some issues in the past, you want to start with that. So what do I mean by that? For example, for me, these roses right over here, I had to treat for black spot earlier in the season. And so what I ended up doing was cutting them all the way back, and I ended up spraying them with copper fungicide from Captain Jack's. Knowing that it had black spot previously means that it's more susceptible to that black spot to come back, even if I've only treated it, because I've only treated it once. So I'm gonna go ahead and treat it again, and probably at least one more time throughout the season, to make sure that that black spot stays away. So if you have plants that in the past have been susceptible to black spot or mildew or aphids or mealybugs or anything of that nature, they're going to be susceptible to it again. So you want to start taking your preventative measures now to make sure that they don't come back. So I'm going to go ahead and spray these roses. Now, this Captain Jack's copper fungicide is great for any type of mold or mildew or black spot or anything of that nature. So we've sprayed. If we take a closer look in here, it looks like all the stems still look really healthy. No black spots on them, no mold or mildew starting anywhere. Everything is still looking really healthy, and we want to keep it that way. Now, while I'm looking at my roses, I'm not just looking for black spot or fungal issues, I'm also looking for insect damage. And I'm starting to see some holes appear in my roses over here, which usually means that there's some sort of, usually it's a Japanese beetle that ends up doing that. So before things get worse, while I can't see any bugs on them right now, I'm gonna go ahead and treat it. So I like to use Bio Advanced Rose and Flower Care. It's a granule, and I literally just sprinkle it around the base of the flower and scratch it into the dirt, and it really does a trick, and it keeps things looking really good for the entire season. Again, this is probably something that I'm going to do at least one more time throughout the season just as a preventative measure, but it's good to start it now. The other thing that I'm starting to notice a lot around here as I'm working is slugs. So slug damage is, they basically eat holes into your plants just like Japanese beetles do. They especially love my hostas, and they love delphiniums as well. So again, before anything gets damaged, I'm going to treat the base of the plant with Sluggo. Very similar concept here. It's a granule. You sprinkle it at the base, you scratch it into the dirt, and it keeps everything at bay and everything nice and healthy. Now, another thing that you can be looking for as you're walking around is making sure that everything has the appropriate amount of space around it. So this way it has enough room to grow and reach its full potential, but also it allows proper air circulation around the plant to prevent future diseases or pests. So for me, for example, this lamb's ear has gotten out of control, and it's crowding out the Weigella around it. So I need to make a decision whether I want to cut the lamb's ear back, divide it up into other clumps and spread it around the garden, or just completely move it. In this particular case, I'm probably just going to divide pieces of it up and spread it to other areas of my garden. Now, as I'm walking, I'm also looking at other types of pressures, like your deer. My deer have definitely been around here grazing. I know I've seen a lot of little bunny rabbits too around here. And so I need to bring out my Repelzol and start spraying, because I can see bloom heads that have been bitten off and other things that have been nibbled on. So I want to stay on top of that before things get completely decimated. Here is my lamb's ear that spreads very, very quickly and is very healthy. And then here's the poor little Weigella that's getting crowded out right next to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and split this up and move it. And then here you can see the deer have nibbled off the tops of my petunias that I grew from seed. And then also tasting my Rudbeckia. So I'm gonna come out here. They'll be fine. And they will bloom as long as they don't keep eating them. Now, in the case of watering, when you're watering, you really want to make sure you water at the base of the plant or where the root zone is. You don't want to broadcast that water overhead. In fact, one of the things that my clients love to say, and I always take a moment to explain to them, when I'm installing a garden bed, they're always like, oh, don't worry about it because I have sprinklers. Sprinklers are great for your lawns. Sprinklers are not great for your garden beds. The reason why is it broadcasts the water all over the place, and the water doesn't typically get to the area that it needs to go, which is the root zone, because it stays on top of the leaf canopy. When water stays on top of the leaf canopy, you're just inviting more troubles in, especially that mold and mildew that I keep talking about, because it's so prevalent in this area with how humid it gets. So again, when you're watering, make sure to get the nozzle of that hose straight into the root zone. And if you are using sprinklers, consider other things like installing a drip irrigation system. I have videos on that as well. I can link them here. But it's really, really cost effective, and it's not at all intricate or overly complicated to install. You also want to make sure to look at some of the plants themselves. Look at the actual leaves, look under the leaves too, because a lot of pests either lay their eggs under the leaves or hide under the leaves, and that's where you're going to spot them the quickest. So look for anything that doesn't look right or feel right. Look for anything that looks like a little bit of slime on your leaves, but if you can't find a bug, that's a surefire way to know that those bugs are starting. For example, whether it's slugs or something like aphids, they leave behind a slime called sooty mold. It's basically their waste. And it almost looks like your leaf is coated in like a sticky molasses almost. That is a surefire sign that aphids or slugs are there and you need to start treating them. So don't just go around just looking at things, actually get in there and look around a little bit closer. It's a lot easier to spot the precursor to the problem and treat it then as preventative care versus once you actually start seeing those aphids or mealy bugs or slugs show up, it's a lot harder to get under control at that point. All right, the last thing you guys want to do is check your mulch. Now, a lot of us tend to mulch every spring or at least every other year. This year I didn't get to it, but last year I did mulch my entire garden bed. The reason why you want to check your mulch is if you haven't refreshed your mulch in a while, what tends to happen is that mulch can form a crust over the top of the garden bed where it basically hardens and just forms a layer. And that layer basically makes it impossible for water to penetrate through. So water just skims off the top of it and it's not getting to where it needs to go. So try to look to see if your mulch is still nice and fluffy. If it's not, what you can do is either use your hands or grab a rake and just gently fluff it up to make sure that the water is actually making its way through the mulch. So let me know what you guys are doing to help prevent any pest pressure in your garden beds as we head into the height of summer. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I hope you guys are having a good day and I will see you in the garden.